you. You will now be
moved inland there across the central Texas coast. It made landfall last night around Rockport as a Category 4 hurricane. You can see the large spiral bands of the hurricane associated with it. There's one that's moving up across the upper Texas coastline, and we'll talk about that here in a second here with our next shot of the radar picture. You can see it's a very large rain band that's basically in the Houston area that extends over down to the coastline by Galveston and then out in the Gulf of Mexico. There's a new rain band developing, however, in our area from basically the Beaumont to Lake Charles down to the coastal areas. That rain band will be the focus that's going to bring us the rain today. Here's the forecast track associated with Harvey. Basically, it's going to be meandering across the central Texas area for the next couple of days before it does a slow drift to the north. You notice the forecast points for 7 a.m. Wednesday and 7 a.m. Thursday keep it well to the west of Houston. So the scenario of this thing reemerging back over the Gulf next week is not a scenario that we're believing in at this stage of the game. So that should be good news for people that were concerned about redevelopment of it moving back in the Gulf. However, even with this scenario here, with it staying over Texas, there's still the potential for the heavy rains in our area. And so this is the storm totals between today and basically Saturday morning next week. So you can see the numbers range from 3 to 5 inches up there in central Louisiana, south central Louisiana between 5 to 10 inches, southwest Louisiana 7 to 12 inches or so, and higher values there in southeast Texas, upwards of 15 inches is possible in parts of Jefferson County. We're going to break it down day by day for the first 3 days here. So this is the today through tomorrow morning forecast graphic. And you notice it's a very tight gradient across the region. This is going to be one of those situations where you're either going to be getting rain or you're probably going to be getting nothing. So we're advertising that the rain band basically is going to be a threat to southeast Texas and portions of southwest Louisiana. Perhaps not as much if you get up into Alexandria regions, central Louisiana, as well as portions of Acadiana. So we're looking at 1 to 5 inches of rain in southeast Texas and upwards of 2 inches here in Lake Charles, as well as east Texas, and maybe up to an inch in central Louisiana and south central Louisiana. This is the graphic for tomorrow, Sunday morning through Monday morning, and you can see the values of 2 to 3 inches across southeast Texas, 1 to 2 for east Texas, southwest Louisiana, and south central Louisiana, between half an inch and a little over an inch up in central Louisiana. So that's what we're looking at for Sunday. Monday, you can see we're expecting a little bit higher values, especially along the I-10 corridor. So we're going 2 to 4 inches in southeast Texas, 1.5 to 3 inches for both southwest and south central Louisiana, 1 to 2 inches up in east Texas, and between half an inch and a little over an inch in central Louisiana. Beyond that, we're looking at a 2-day forecast package here. So this is 7 a.m. Tuesday through 7 a.m. Thursday. And we're looking at 2 to 4 inches for southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana, 2 to 3 inches across east Texas and south central Louisiana, 1 to 2 inches up in east Texas. So remember, this is a 2-day total, not a 1-day total. And then beyond that, this is another 2-day total between Thursday and Friday, and we're carrying 2 to 3 inches across east Texas, southeast Texas, southwest Louisiana, and then a 1 to 2 inch across south central Louisiana and central Louisiana. So that kind of gives you a feel for the timing of this rain and when we're going to be seeing it across our area. I turned that into a table. This will be in the email slide so you can have it for reference purposes to see what we got going on. And we'll update this later on today on the afternoon update at 4:30. But basically, you can see the big threat for today is southeast Texas, with a little bit smaller threat for east Texas and southwest Louisiana, whereas tomorrow the threat kind of expands to almost our entire area as well as Monday. So that's the kind of timing of what we're looking at. We're not talking about 20 inches of rain in one day or anything like that, or even 15 inches in one day. We're talking about this stuff lasting multiple days over the next week. I also kind of depicted across the bottom there what counties and parishes we're referring to when we say southeast Texas or southwest Louisiana. Here's our graphic for the potential river flooding. Jonathan Brazil actually told me there's an update where Beaumont now is expected to go into a level minor flood. So this graphic here is wrong for the Beaumont area, but we do still show a major flood potential for the Sour Lake area on Pine Island Bayou. And now we've also lowered it a little bit further to the east. We've got moderate flooding scenario for Old Town Bay on Calcasieu River and West Fork at San Houston Jones State Park, as well as Bahia Neptune near Brazil, Bahia de Cane near Eunice. Several other forecast points across the area are also going to be at the forecasted flood stage. We'll be updating this again later on this afternoon. Okay, so here's the timing of what we're looking at for the next round of the storm surge threat. The next high tide will be at 8:24 p.m. tonight, and then 7:48 a.m. tomorrow morning. So that's kind of the two windows to focus on for southeast Texas. In southwest Louisiana, the timing of the next two high tides, 8:19 p.m. tonight, and then 6:55 a.m. tomorrow morning. And over in south central Louisiana, depending on if we're looking at Intracoastal City or Amaretta Pass, there's a range here for the timing of the tides. For tonight's high tides, it's between 7:19 p.m. and 8:44 p.m., and for Sunday morning between 6:25 a.m. and 7:12 a.m. So this is the timing of when we're expecting to have the issues during high tides for the water being potentially inundating certain areas across our coastal areas. I don't think it'll be during the entire period, mainly during the periods of high tide. Here's our wind graphics. The wind values are a little bit lower today than what we were saying yesterday, so we're advertising 15 to 25 knots in our coastal waters, basically today through Monday night with gusts in the 35 knot range, and we're looking at winds being out of the east, gusting to 20 to 30 miles an hour in the coastal areas of southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana. The tornado threat, the graphic on the left shows the tornado watch that is currently in effect until 1 p.m. for that big rain band that's across the Houston area, but it does go as far east as Jefferson County and Hardin County actually as well. So be aware of that. I wouldn't be surprised if they issue another tornado watch east of that if we do get a redevelopment of the rain band into southwest Louisiana later on today. The graphic on the right kind of depicts the risk there. The yellow, the slight risk is a 50% chance of the isolated tornado threat, and the darker green shade is a 5% risk for the tornado threat across East Texas and southwest Louisiana. That's for today and tonight. So in summary, Harvey is still Category 1, but it's barely there. We're expecting it to drop down to a tropical storm this afternoon and then drop down to a tropical depression on Sunday, and as it meanders in the central Texas region. After that, it will stay inland. We're not expecting this thing to come back offshore. That's the good news there. The bad news is even with it staying inland, we're expecting potential for some heavy rains and floods in our region, especially southeast Texas and parts of southwest Louisiana. So the total numbers of rainfall, we got 9 to 19 inches in southeast Texas, 6.5 to 12 inches for East Texas, 7 to 13 southwest Louisiana, south central Louisiana, basically 6 to 11 inches, and central Louisiana, basically 3 to 7.5. Major flooding is possible in the Pine Island Bayou near Sour Lake. And the storm surge problem is going to be something to be watching still for at high tides tonight and again Sunday morning, as well as a little bit of gusty winds, 20 to 30 miles an hour today through Sunday night, and the tornado watch that's in effect until 1 p.m. for parts of southeast Texas. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get another tornado watch further to the east and the southwest Louisiana. Our next call will be scheduled at 4:30 p.m. this afternoon. So unmute the phone line here,
The has
and if you have a
unmuted
question,
your line.
you can bring that up now.
Hey, Roger.
abated, but we're still going to have some rain. I'm going to ask Andy to go right into the weather report.
That's right. First, I'm going to address the storm surge issues that we may still have, at least for another couple tide cycles through Sunday. Roger mentioned 1 to 3 feet is basically what we're still going to go with. And keep in mind, there's still a lot of water that's not draining out. It's also due to the winds and also due to any heavy rain that falls. So we may still have a lot of standing water over the area. The other thing, too, to talk about is the rainfall. Roger mentioned an overall storm total of about 7 to 13 inches. One of the other things to keep in mind, too, is we really need to watch where the remnants of Harvey actually set up. It's somewhere in Texas, likely is going to be seeing a lot of rain even further east, and we'll have to see where that sets up. Potentially, we'll have to kind of watch the Sabine River Basin, Upper Sabine River Basin, to see what's going to actually happen up there. That's still, though, quite a number of days away, and maybe even one to maybe as much as 2 weeks away for monitoring that. So the bottom line is, as far as threat of heavy rainfall is concerned, the heavier rain bands that you may have noticed on the radar that Roger was talking about, we're going to keep an eye on that, see how far that shifts east. It looks like it's been pretty stationary during the morning hours, and it may shift a little further east. Whether it reaches this area or not, still, I think it's highly unlikely right now. But it, potentially as we head into early next week, we'll see how that goes as far as getting any of a major rain band like that. As far as the weekend weather is concerned, again, we're going to see these occasional bursts of heavy rain potentially across the area, so we may still have some urban flooding issues in the typical areas.
Okay, thanks, Andy. Any weather questions? I got one thing to ask you, Andy. When you say Upper Sabine Basin, we're talking about Toledo Bend Reservoir. So
That's correct.
On the Texas side of the call yesterday, they asked about that, and there is some concern now. Can you comment on that?
Yes, basically where this, depending on where this remnant of Harvey sets up, and some of the scenarios they don't really take it further east like we were talking about earlier. It's more or less going to maybe potentially go north and maybe a little north of east. And what normally happens in those situations is the heavier rain bands set up further east into East Texas. So whether that gets into the Sabine River watershed or not, it's still, we just have to keep an eye on it. It does look like, though, that the heavier rains are going to set up somewhere, and whether it's there or further west, just something we have to watch on.
Okay. And related to that, we did put the restrictions on the Calcasieu River in place today, but now it sounds like they may be backing away from the predictions some. So we'll watch that over the weekend and see what we need to do on lifting those restrictions as quickly as we can. Does anyone have any other operational issues that you'd like to discuss? Mayor Hunter, you got anything? Okay. Okay. Well, we'll have another briefing at 4:30 today.
Yes, correct.
Possibly tomorrow. We may only have one tomorrow, but we'll advise y'all later on that. Thank you.